In 1880-something, 83, there was an idea to bring together a group of extraordinary people here in this town of Nottingham. The British and Irish Lions were formed by two cricketers who'd organised an England cricket tour to Australia when we made loads of money off that. What if we did that with rugby? And so was born something that has become one of rugby's greatest traditions and highest possible honours. And we thought what better way to mark that tradition carrying on for another 4 years as we fully head into Lion season than to begin something we would like to be a ongoing series here on More Squid Rugby on the second channel of looking at the greatest ever players from various countries by assembling a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I think one format that a lot of people will do on this is like make an all-time 15. That's for another time.
Yeah.
That's for another time. However, a Mount Rushmore, so we've not quite discussed fully what we value on this, right? But 4 players from each team that we're going to cover.
4 individuals.
Or 4 individuals, I should say. Correct. You're correct.
We're allowed to throw out a coach if we want. We're allowed to throw out a
somebody
water
behind
boy.
the scenes. Yeah, a
Razzie
mascot.
Erasmus for any of these things.
Yeah. It could be just an individual of some sort. I think personally, I prioritise their impact on what happens on the field.
Yeah.
However, there are other factors that will come into play in terms of what they did off the field. With the Lions, I think especially that's more important than a lot of other ones because they're permanently on tour. Whereas with some, it's kind of more back and forth. You've got home games and whatever, right? But yeah, so we're going to pick 4 individuals.
Yeah.
So the format will be, we will each present our 4 to each other.
Yes.
And then if they are not already the same, which they could be, we will then agree at the end what the Squidge Rugby Mount Rushmore is.
We will try and convince the other person round and come up with a definitive Mount Rushmore. And we will carve this into a hill in Nottinghamshire somewhere to mark the Lions being created here.
In the meantime, you can have this Mount Rushmore here of Di the Dragon, Sinbad, Mako and Billy. But yeah, I'm sure that as we go along, I will superimpose a Mount Rushmore with these guys' faces on into this video.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll go one by one, we'll go back and forth. There's one name I think stands out who has to be on the Mount Rushmore of Lions players, and it is the first name I'm going to throw out there. It's Willie John McBride.
Yeah. He was the first name. As soon as you suggested this idea, I thought, Lions Mount Rushmore, Willie John McBride. It's just a no-brainer. Yeah. The thing is, he is known as a Lion rather than as an Irish legend. He is known for 17 Lions test caps, I want to say.
I believe so.
18. A ludicrous amount regardless.
5 tours. One of only 2 players to ever gone 5 tours.
That's crazy.
Will the other player come up? We'll see.
Potentially.
But 5 tours, was captain in 74, the greatest ever Lions tour, the only Lions tour where they went completely unbeaten the entire tour. 33 wins and 1 draw.
Yeah.
Just an absolutely unbelievable record, and no one has a bad word to say about
it.
And
what a player as well. Yeah. Known as an on-pitch leader and warrior and hard-as-nails guy. And I think the most exceptional thing about him going on 5 tours was the way that he was known to play, was body on the line. He would do absolutely anything and put his teammates first rather than his own health and safety.
Yeah.
And yet his body hung around for long enough that he could go on 5 separate tours. It's crazy. It defies logic.
He played on tours alongside the likes of Gareth Edwards, Phil Bennett, Barry John, Mike Gibson, David Duckham. If you were to bring up the most talented players of the amateur era for each of the home nations, they were on those tours. And yet who's the guy we talk about? It's Willie John McBride.
Some of those guys may come up later, of course.
And a lot of that, is Willie John McBride's attitude to rugby was so often, you protect Gareth Edwards.
Yeah.
This guy is our king, we protect him. Almost like it's chess, right? And you're just trying to keep this one guy safe.
Selflessly unflashy.
Yeah.
Let somebody else do that. I
will
work my arse off to make sure that somebody else can do the flashy passes and kicks.
Yeah. So, undoubtedly,
he's etched in.
We are already getting the chisel out and putting Willie John McBride in the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
your first pick.
Yeah, I'll go for one who has also been on several Lions tours and is another person who, much like Willie John McBride, is known as a Lion first before being known for their own nation and what impact they made on their and clubs that he's been with. And for me, I think that when I first got into the Lions, this guy epitomised it, right?
Yeah.
And that is Sir Ian McGeechan.
yeah, he's also on my list.
Yeah, he's incredible. Like, as a personality around the Lions, and sure, he is a doddery old pundit these days. Like, when you get them on the TV, it's like, oh, good old granddaddy and Geech, he's back. Like, but he's a very likeable, or lovable, like, cuddly man at this point. But also, when you roll back the clips of both in the amateur and professional era, the speeches that he was giving to inspire his teams. And obviously there are coaches with much more technical insight than he's had.
That was 2009, right? They brought Warren Gatland, who basically the tactical side.
Yeah.
And then Geech was the motivator, was the overseer, was the guy who managed squad morale.
And because the reason why they got Sir Geech to be in charge of 09 was just because they went, brilliant, right, who understands the concept of the Lions best out of everybody, who, like, in the world, basically? And Willie John was clearly unavailable to coach that one. And so Sir Geech, having coached in 97 as well, just an absolutely stellar top bloke, and nobody really has much of a bad word to say about the guy.
Of any player and coach who's been on the most tours, went on 2 as a player, and then 4 as a head coach and 1 as an assistant.
He gets it.
And then also, right, they will wheel him out this tour, because every tour they bring him out to do a jersey presentation or to give a team talk, somewhere to talk to the squad, because he is so synonymous with the Lions. Yeah. You look at the fact his autobiography sat right here, right? Like in our set, right? It's called Lion Man. Yeah. Like, there's a reason for that. Like, I've read it. Like, it is mostly him talking about going on Lions tours. Yeah. There's very little about his Scotland career, very little about him playing for Leeds. Like, it is almost entirely him talking about the Lions, because that's what people know from him and what he's synonymous with.
And that's it. He's more about the Lions than he is about rugby.
Yeah.
And, like, he understands the Lions more than he understands rugby, which is why they got him on that tour. Like, yeah, the guy is just... He epitomises the Lions, and just nobody gets it like he does.
97, one of the most famous Lions tours of all time. 2009, exactly the same. And so much of that was like after the wake of 2005, right? There was a lot of talk of, we're 10 years in professionalism, does the Lions work anymore? The 2005 tour was such a shambles, famously like the worst Lions tour of all time.
Yeah.
And then they brought in Geech as a Hail Mary, and he did it. Like, the 2009 Lions tour is one of my favourite rugby memories of all time. Yeah. That second test is one of the biggest best games of
Even though
played.
The Lions lost the series, like, it's incredible the way that he, suddenly put so much pride back in that jersey and made it back into what it still is today. Yeah. And obviously, the thing that is most notable is the "There'll be a look" speech.
Yes.
And like, stuff like that, it genuinely kind of chokes you up as a Lions fan every time you watch it. It's just, the guy is inspirational. And as I say, like, whenever you look back on his career, the one word that comes to mind is Lion.
Yeah. Some days are special. Some mountain faces are special. We're etching Geech in. He's going right on the side of the mountain. Okay, now, I'm going to throw my rogue pick.
Okay.
Right? Because I think there's 3... The way I see this, right, I think there will be 3 that we pick that are the same. Okay. And I think there'll be a 4th that isn't. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to throw my other one out there, and we can see if we agree on the other one.
Okay. Now, I'm fearing that I've missed somebody.
Yeah. Tony O'Reilly.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is he the other one who's been on 5 tours?
No. The other guy that's been on, who also should be up there, the other guy that's been on 5 tours is Mike Gibson.
Oh, yes, what a legend.
Yeah,
talk to me about Tony O'Reilly.
Tony O'Reilly scored more test tries for the Lions than anyone else.
Okay.
10 test tries.
10 test tries.
Thank you. In 5 test appearances over 3 tours. Was, like, regarded similar to McGeechan and so on as a player who's very good for Ireland. Yeah. But, like, you put him in a Lions jersey and he was electric. And he played on tours, during the 50s when perhaps, less vintage Lions era, but like, he was the guy. He was like the standout, the star, and the fact that his record stands to this day of more tries scored for the Lions than anyone else, both in tests and outside of them, 10 test tries and like 40 plus.
That is
overall.
A crazy record that he has in Lions tests as well, which is as high a standard as test rugby can get, and that has been the case since the inception of the Lions. Yeah. That's the highest level of test you can play at, the highest level of defence you can play against. That's crazy.
Six tests rather than 5.
Okay, still.
6 tests and 10 tries.
Okay, I didn't have Tony O'Reilly's name down.
I thought you might not.
Unsurprised to hear. But that's a really good shout.
I wanted it back on there, right? And so there's a few contenders, but
Yeah. And this is quite interesting because I think a lot of these will be quite back heavy.
Yeah.
But then again, it's very different from picking the best players of all
Yeah.
time necessarily. It's I don't know, almost the most representative, most legendary,
and I
rather
think
than the most flashy.
McGeechan's on there as a coach rather than as a centre.
Yeah. I agree. But yeah, I mean, he's in there as a back, but technically, if we were ticking those boxes, but yeah, you're right, he's in as a coach.
Well, because I initially did this and I had 3 players in the same position and I wanted someone different.
Yeah.
Right? But I think Tony OReilly up there.
I love that.
Yeah, I also want, because I think if other people came to do this, right, the point in the lines is tradition and heritage and history. And like, I want someone that didn't play in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I love the idea of having someone in there. And obviously, Willie John McBride is now coming up on 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, just ticked over 50
And that
years.
is it, because I think this is more relative than necessarily if I was to pick an all-time 15 for the Lions, right? Or not necessarily for the Lions, but for a nation, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say for England or for France or whatever. I would pick majority players from the last 10, 15 years because if you're just picking the best, because rugby is much better now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Whereas picking on Mount Rushmore, you're thinking of legends who gave something to the shirt.
greatest rather than the best.
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. And with the Lions in particular, as you say, it is so etched around history and tradition that is the point in it. And it's a little bit corny at times. You know, rugby union can get very cringeworthy around this kind of thing. But with the Lions, I feel like there's a bit of an exception to it. I don't know, I can't explain it. But yeah, so, okay, I'll go for my next pick now. So this is somebody who, we mentioned the '09 tour there that Ian McGeechan coached on, and that being the moment that I fell in love with the Lions, and the moment that you fell in love with the Lions, and that being kind of McGeechan's fault, you know, him going like, oh, they've picked out the most inspirational figure they can have, they've got the best captain that they can find across the nations in Paul O'Connell, who isn't sadly the guy I'm going for on this occasion, as much as he would be a very worthy candidate for this. And they've picked in all these legends, you know, you've got O'Driscoll in there, you've got Shane Williams in there, you've got Ricky Fluties in there.
I know exactly where this is going.
Yeah, and that being the start of the Lions' career for a living legend of the Lions, and as a fan of the Lions, watching him in real time, becoming a legend, and going on 4 tours, which is mad.
Oh, it's not who I had in mind.
No, okay.
I was thinking of Tim Payne.
Okay, yeah. He's played every single Lions test match that he's been available for on all of the tours. Has, of course, done the 2021 tour as captain as well for all 3 tests. And much like we were saying about Willie John McBride, in the professional era, stood the test of time. Alan Wynne-Jones of Wales and the Lions.
Yeah, you kind of can't argue with that at all. He was also on my list. I think you would say we have skewered towards the amateur era so far.
Yeah.
But I think he is the greatest professional Lion of this era. His 4 tours is pretty undoubted. On every tour, when he was named from 2017 and 2021, there were people going, he's too old, what's he doing here? Then they'd see him play.
Yeah.
And the way he emptied the tank.
And when he's on your team, you suddenly realise what he does, what
yeah.
he brings.
And he was brilliant on all of those tours. I thought he was one of the 2017 tour, right? That first test that did not go well, I thought he was the Lions' best player on that day.
Yeah.
And then you can go over how many ever test, and he is standout every single time. Then when, obviously things went better in the next 2 tests, he was equally exceptional. 2021, though, is the one that stands out, right?
Yeah.
And obviously 2013, he managed to come in and he took the captaincy for the final game. And I remember
he was
feeling
exceptional
like a massive wave of pride because he was the captain of my club. He was captaining the Lions. And I was like, I can't believe this. This is so cool. And then, obviously, there he is, right next to us. Then 2021, right? He plays against Japan in the opening game. He picks up an injury. I actually ended up that day in a bus back to Edinburgh Centre with a bunch of the Lions sponsors, right? And they were in utter meltdown because they were going, there's no one else in the squad we can market in the same way. And the person they were saying that they were hoping it would be was a Toje. Because they're like, he's the only other guy we know how to sell in the same way.
Yeah.
Because the way they were angling it is, here is this like heroic leader of men.
Yeah.
Here is this guy who is an instant icon, who you put in any room and he is the commanding presence in there. Like, there are very few people born and alive like Alan Wynne-Jones. And he picks up that injury and you think he's out the tour. They named a new captain. And then out of nowhere, he pushed himself and he managed to get back and play all 3 tests and was brilliant in them.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways he emptied the tank there and was never quite the same player again after that tour.
But he gave everything he had for the Lions.
He took everything, yeah, exactly. And that is like the epitome of a Lions legend to me.
Yeah. And he was not ready to come back from that injury.
No.
Like, he was still injured afterwards. And after that, he had a spell of breaking the same hand again when he next played for Wales and when he next played for the Ospreys. And, like, as you say, the not playing as a result of that injury is what kind of dipped his career a little bit. But what a way to go out as a big figurehead for the British and Irish Lions. And you mentioned that thing earlier that we've weighted towards the amateur era so far. It's one of those things I almost feel guilty grouping Alan Wynne-Jones in this because they had it so differently to what the professional Lions do. But the amount he put his body through and the amount he led for the Lions, I just thought, and in different ways as well, because he adapted so much of as a player and as a captain. And I don't want to over-egg him too much because I have a certain level of bias because he is my second favourite player of all time, to Antoine Dupont.
To Tim Payne. Oh, okay.
Yeah, to Tim Payne. So, yeah, he just feels like... It's funny because the other guys we mentioned, we said they're Lions first, then like their nation first. With Alan Wynne, I think he's Welsh first, then Lions second, which I feel, again, makes me feel a bit guilty picking him in this. But it just speaks of like how good a player he was and what a fruitful career he had, that he managed to fulfill, like, become a legend for both in such, like, so undisputedly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, he's on my list as well. So
So have you got all 4 of yours?
I've named all 4 of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to either name some runners-up who could have made it, or guess who you think my 5th would be, my 4th would be?
I've got a few other contenders, right, who I had down there. So one of them, a few of them I think you might mention.
Okay,
a few of the ones I don't think you will, right?
Okay.
James Robson.
Oh, that's a brilliant shout.
6 tours as the lead medic. Obviously retired now, so this is going to be their first tour without him since in the professional era.
Yeah.
So I thought he was a great shout.
And the players loved him every time. Oh, I know where you're going on this trajectory as well.
Likewise, Neil Jenkins.
Yeah.
Who 2 tours as a player, 4 as a coach.
Paddy Ralla O'Reilly has to be on this, surely.
Yep. So I'd throw all 3 of those out as just people that are enormously popular as off-field people.
Yes.
Jenkins, I think, almost gets the edge because he went as a player as well.
Yes.
But so often, because he was the kicking coach, like, it's one of these things, right, that he became an incredibly important, the kicking coach and the scrum coach become incredibly important figures on Lions tours.
Yeah.
Because they're the guy that, like, if you are a forward, you go and talk to the kicking coach as like the casual chat, you know, to get an insight to the coaches panel, and then the scrum coach of the backs, right? Because they're not relevant to you.
Yeah.
So it's like they can be somewhere between being a mate and being a
bit more relaxed.
Yeah. So it's like they're really important roles. So I think I'd throw all 3 of those out there.
Ralla's a really good shout as well, because for the uninitiated, for the unaware, so you might not be aware of the name Paddy O'Reilly, known as Ralla. So he was the kit man, the bag packer for the Lions, and he did it for the Irish national team, and then he retired in I want to say in about 2019 World Cup.
I think it was about 2015, yeah.
And then he went on the 2017 and 21 tours.
Yeah.
This is the first tour without Ralla, I believe. He went on the Lions tour after he retired from national duty because they just went, well, it's a Lions tour. We can't do it without you, Ralla. And he went, and he was always incredible on the DVDs.
Yeah.
Just cracking jokes with all the lads. All the lads always loved him. And there's a really good clip on, I want to say the 2013 tour where George North's doing a tour of the hotel, and he goes and just Ralla's got his room door open, and he just knocks on the door and just goes like, "You're right, Ralla," and just sits down and have a chat with him, and he's there cracking terrible jokes to George North, and George is just giggling and loving it, and it's just like it's just such a good insight and like what the Lions get up to on their spare time, and Ralla is just like a really great guy for that.
Was it a couple of them ran Ralla's Thought of the Day, where the most famous of them being knowledge is knowing tomatoes are fruit, wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad, which O'Driscoll then said in the press conference and got quoted, and that now comes up as a quote. But that was a Ralla original. That was his Thought of the Day once.
He stitched Bod up for a laugh, and he dared him to say it in a press conference, and he did, as a means of insulting Martin Johnson or something.
Something like that.
But it's very funny.
Martin Johnson was another name I had down.
Yeah.
Like, I very almost had him in.
I mean, can't dispute that.
2 tours as captain.
Yeah.
And obviously the 97 tour, one of the greats, the first professional tour, went and beat the world champions. And he was such a brilliant leader there that they gave him the England captaincy as a result.
Yeah.
And then went on to lead them again in 2001, where obviously a narrow test loss. but a Test Series loss. But like still one of the great Lions,
Yeah.
I think should be on there. But it got very second row heavy if you had Alan Wynne, Willie John and
That's true. That's true.
and McBride, and Mark Johnson rather. So kind of discounted him. Then there's a couple of the names I think you might come up. Mike Gibson, I think also deserves to be on there. JPR Williams, JJ Williams, second top try scorer to Tony O'Reilly. So there's a bunch of those. Like, but I didn't want to lean too far on the 74 tour because those are like a lot of those legends. And yeah. So
Who do you think I've gone for?
My gut feeling was Brian O'Driscoll.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. Well, Brian O'Driscoll went on 4 tours.
Yeah.
So only 4 players have gone on 4 tours. So McBride, Gibson, Alan Wynne, and Bod, and was a great, right? And like obviously people now talk about the 2013 him being dropped for the 3rd test, right? But 2001 coming as a youngster, that brilliant burst of pace and that try in the 1st test. You then have 2005 where he was captain and he was the star, and him getting injured early on in the test series basically rocked the Lions and blew them up, as well as Dan Carter being pretty good at rugby. 2009, he was then such a key cog. Him and Roberts formed like this absolutely vital, like one of the great partnerships of all time. They then carried that on the following Lions tour, where he got dropped, and it was a correct decision, and Jonathan Davis should also be on this list.
And I mean, they won that 2013 series.
Yeah.
Body's also one of my favourite players of all time. So, you know, it's natural that you'd think I'd select him. However, I've not gone for Bod. Now you say him, I kind of realise I maybe should have. But I have, in fact, gone for Martin Johnson.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
For everything you were just saying, because once again, I know it's second row heavy, but in a way, I think I don't mind that because I feel like if they're playing the position where they can most command like several Lions tours and lead from the front, then that's fine. You know, not their fault that they're tall and good at catching lineouts. But yeah, Martin Johnson is one of those guys, much like Alan Wynne-Jones. He's known for lifting the World Cup in 2003, right? And we don't like to mention it, but he did. But he is also, at the same time, known as a proper, like, relentless Lion. And that everything he did, every second he spent on those tours was just so intensely spent just thinking about, like, what can we do to win this test series, right? And as you mentioned, there was the famous Justin Harrison thing where he stole a line out from Johnson in the final test in 2001, which nicked the series from the Lions, and it was heartbreaking from a Lions perspective, and it's really famous that's sadly how his Lions career had to end. But yeah, Martin Johnson just feels like a warrior who leads from the front, and just, again, when you say the word Lion, he's the guy who comes to mind in a way.
The other side that though is Harrison's on record about this. He didn't steal that line out because he read the play, because he read their call. He just man-marked Johnson because he knew they'd throw to him because he was their most reliable option.
Yeah.
And like he stole it because Martin Johnson was a great Lion and a great player. Like ultimately that's the thing that backfired him in that moment, the one downside to his
So he should have been less good,
career.
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Martin Johnson was the guy I picked. So yeah, to recap what we've each gone for, right? So I've gone for Willie John McBride, Sir Ian McGeechan, Alan Wynne-Jones, and Martin Johnson. I've actually gone for one from each nation, as it happens.
I like that.
I didn't really intentionally do that, and then I kind of realised, oh, that's quite nice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I've gone for very similar, Ian McGeechan, Willie John McBride, Alan Wynne-Jones, and Tony O'Reilly.
So it's a shootout at this point between Martin Johnson and Tony O'Reilly.
Yeah.
It is a try-scoring back versus a gnarly forward.
I originally had Martin Johnson written down.
Did you?
I did. Like, he was my first instinct was Geech, and then, yeah.
Okay,
Johnson.
so we were very nearly on the exact same page.
So we very nearly named the same team, and I'm glad I twisted to go slightly more rugby hipster out there.
Sure.
However,
makes the video a bit more interesting.
I am happy to swing around to Martin Johnson here.
Okay.
I think Tony O'Reilly is a very deserving mention.
Yeah,
as
definitely.
is Mike Gibson, as is JPR Williams, as are so many of those greats from the amateur.
Yeah,
era.
Ralla and
Yeah.
Dr. Jim and Jenks, as you mentioned.
But we've then gone 2 professional, 2 amateur. We've got 1 from all 4 nations. We've given a really good split there, actually, I think.
And
even if there's 3
it's
second
something
rows.
we've definitely noticed before, off the record, is that all Lions legends seem to be second rows for some reason.
It's weird because the second rows were all either like the greatest legend ever or you forget them.
Yeah. It's absolutely gutting that we didn't put Brad Barrett in there, but it is what it is.
Next time.
But yeah, no, genuinely, that there is something about that. There's clearly a longevity to hard-nosed second rows who, like, if you're tough enough to play in the Lions multiple times, you can just go on forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so we want to pick this up. Please let us know if you enjoyed this. We want to do more of these, I think.
Yeah.
Looking
Wanna
at
make this-
other individual nations, possibly clubs. Look, we want to get down to doing Zimbabwe and Chile and so on, to get for all the big ones.
Well, it's a more or less weekly-ish
We'll see,
series,
yeah.
but we'll see how often we can upload them. But yeah, it's very exciting. Please let us know which Mount Rushmore do you want us to do next, unless we've already recorded the next one by the time this comes up. But you know what I mean, in context.
An actual call to action. I like it. We should do Australia, really, shouldn't we?
That's a good shout. Let's record that.
Mate, we should do Australia.
Yeah. Cheers, Wally.
Australia.